بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. As you know, we just began the recitation from Surah Taha. I know that's one of Qari Anas's favorite surahs from the Quran. I think I heard already 3 different styles, so basically we should buckle up and we're going to enjoy the next few rak'at, inshaAllah. May Allah accept from all of us. Tonight we had one of our favorite events of the year. We have our annual Interfaith Iftar, which is a beautiful occasion. We open the masjid to our non-Muslim friends and neighbors. And this is really emblematic of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to let people know about Islam and Muslims and to build relationships not only among Muslims but with the wider society. One of the things that I mentioned at our program today is about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though in fasting there's a deprivation, right? But in fasting, the emphasis is not on what you give up, but rather what you gain. And that there's something miraculous that happens when you pray to Allah when fasting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes how Zakaria was fasting, and as a result of the prayer that he made when he was fasting, Allah granted him a great miracle. What was that? The miracle of Yahya, John the Baptist. Then Maryam before him, well, she had made the dua earlier and then the granting of it came after. Maryam, she was fasting, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted her the birth of Isa ibn Maryam, the birth of Jesus, the son of Mary. So there's something which is very special about fasting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants. But there's another thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, especially in the beginning of Surah Maryam, which we recited in the beginning of today. Allah mentions at the very beginning of the surah, كافها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. Allah described how Zakaria called on his Lord نداء خفيا. That he called on him with a very gentle dua, with a very gentle prayer. And this shows, brothers and sisters, that the opening and the great miracle of Yahya, of Isa, they didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't just happen spontaneously. It happened because of a dua. And in this surah, in Surah Maryam, in Surah Taha, in the surahs that we have been covering in these nights, how many du'as of prophets and pious people have been mentioned? Because of their simple dua, great events happen. Mountains are moved. The impossible becomes possible. Why? Because of a very soft and a quiet dua. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. So if that's the case, we have to ask ourselves, have I really been making dua? Because sometimes we make dua, but we're like, well, the dua wasn't accepted, or we don't see the result of that. So we have to ask ourselves, have I prayed so profusely, so intensely, so fervently, so sincerely to Allah? Have I done so quietly? Have I done so openly? Have I had an intimate discourse, a munajat with Allah? Have I had that intimate conversation with Allah in asking Him? Or was I just focused on the thing that I wanted? This is I'm admitting myself, and I think many of you suffer from the same thing. That when we make dua, we have all these things that we want to ask for. So the focus in our dua is on what? The things that we want. But the reality of dua is the asking. The dua is mukh al-ibadah. It is the essence of prayer. So the beauty of the dua is in your tawajjuh towards Allah, in you turning towards Him and asking Him and having something to ask. That's why He comes down in His mercy and He says, هَلْ مِن سَائِلٍ فَأُعْطِيَ. That is there anyone that has something to ask for? As Sufyan ibn Uyayna mentioned, he was asked, who is the person in the worst condition in Hajj? And he replied, he said, only the person that has nothing to ask from Allah. Because everybody else is going to get what they ask for. But the person who can't come up with anything, that person is in the worst condition. And this is why Abu al-Qasim al-Junayd, one of his favorite common du'as, is that he said, Allahumma ja'al ghayata qasdi ilayka ma huwa lak. He said, oh Allah, I'll repeat it again for the Arabic speakers, so so that way you follow me. Allahumma ja'al ghayata qasdi ilayka ma huwa lak. That, oh Allah, make my aspiration to reach you be that only which is for you. وَلَا تَجْعَلْ غَايَةَ قَصْدِي إِلَيْكَ مَا أَطْلُبُهُ مِنْكَ. And don't make my aspiration and my path to you, Ya Allah, just only about the things that I want from you. Everybody with me? There are so many people, billions of people around the world, all of them are asking, God help me, oh my God. God, if you're out there, Ya Allah, Ya Rabb. Everybody is asking from Allah. They're asking from Allah. But among His ibad, there are servants, they're asking from Allah, but more importantly, they're asking for Allah. See the difference? Some people are praying because they have things that they need from Allah. There's nothing, I'm not denigrating that. That's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing that you have a Lord that you can turn to and ask for. But it's a higher level of sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a higher level of connection if your dua is about the asking. That your dua is about your turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As one of the pious people, he said, everyone is asking from the king. Why are they asking from the king? Because they need things. King, can I have this? King, will you grant this? Will you release my case? Will you do that? Will you grant me this money? So everybody is asking from the king. And they said, but only the queen is asking for the king. So this is the difference, brothers and sisters, when we make dua. When we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are we asking nida'an khafiya? Do we have that gentle prayer? Do we have that quiet dua? Are we praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So many of us have been asking, look at our brothers and sisters in Gaza, in Sudan, in Congo, in all of the places in the world, in China, in Kashmir, and the list goes on, in Yemen, where people are suffering. And they say, we're praying. But have we really prayed as an ummah? Have we really prayed in a state of iftiqar? In a state of complete poverty? That, oh Allah, we don't have the means, we don't have the ability, and you are the only one we can turn to. Have we asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a state of inkisar? That in a state of brokenness, that Ya Allah, I couldn't do it on my own. But I know I'm strong because I have returned my affairs to you. If we do that, brothers and sisters, then we will have that nida'an khafiya. Then we'll have that quiet and soft and gentle prayer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we have that gentle prayer, then now we've become like Zakaria, where we fast, where we make a gentle prayer, and what happens after that? Then there's the opening. Then the miracles begin to happen. Then that which is impossible begins to happen. So it's a reminder, my dear brothers and sisters, that this Ramadan, don't just think about the things, don't just be the abd that worships asking things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be the one that worships because you love asking Allah. And focus on the asking and not on the thing that you're asking from Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that sincerity. May Allah purify our tongues min al-kadhib, from lying and from treachery. Allahumma tahhir qulubana min al-nifaq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our hearts from any kind of hypocrisy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a qalbin yakhsha. May Allah grant us hearts that tremble and have sincerity and turn to Allah. And may Allah give us ayn tadma, an eye that cries for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah make us mukhliseen lah. May Allah make us sincere in our worshipping only for His sake. وصلى اللهم وسلم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.